the other important commitment His Excellency has graciously joined us this moment. We are especially grateful for his presence, as he will need to depart immediately after delivering his remark to attend the another official engagement. Your Excellency, we are deeply honored by your presence, and I now have the pleasure of inviting you to take the floor and deliver your remark, please.
Thank you, Excellency Co-Chair. His Excellency Ogberet, First Vice President of the Senate of the Kingdom of Cambodia and Co-Chair, His Excellency Syed Yusuf Raza Chilani, Founding Chairman of the ISC and President of the Senate of Pakistan and Co-Chair, Excellencies, Honorable Speakers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I start by expressing our deepest condolences and most sincere sympathy to our Nepali brothers for the tragedy that struck the country by recent flash flood in central Nepal. Our prayers are with the victims and their families, and we wish to express our strongest sympathy to the government and the people of Nepal. I must admit that I took a great risk in agreeing to speak this morning after yesterday's major speeches from this August Assembly, and in particular the speech of Samdech Techo Hun Sen, President of the Senate, on the state of our world and the major structural trends, the challenges government and parliament alike around the globe are facing. And of course, the speech of Samdech Techo Hun Manet, our Prime Minister, who shared his views on the close relationship between peace, resilience, inclusive development, and international cooperation. We have listened to his views on the role and the work of Parliament in contributing to the realization of these objectives. It will be, therefore, very difficult for me to avoid certain repetition, a flow that I hope you would forgive me. Nevertheless, it is a great and true honor for me to address the second Inter-Parliamentary Speakers Conference under the theme, Solidarity for Peace and Shared Prosperity, Strengthening International Law and Resolving Conflicts Peacefully. The theme of this conference is both timely and highly relevant because it brings together three objectives that are inseparable: peace, respect for international law, and shared prosperity. We meet at a time of profound uncertainty in the international environment. Geopolitical rivalry is intensifying. Armed conflicts are resurging in many parts of the world. Economic fragmentation is increasing. At the same time, climate change, food and energy insecurity, technological disruption, transnational crimes, and other challenges are becoming increasingly interconnected. These developments are taking place precisely when international law, global governance, and multilateralism are themselves coming under growing strain. Established rules are being challenged. International institutions are under pressure, and confidence in our collective capacity to manage disagreement peacefully is being tested. Yet, in today's interconnected world, a problem rarely remains confined to the place where it begins. A conflict in one region can disrupt global supply chains, increase energy and food prices, affect trade and investment, generate displacement and deepen insecurity thousands of kilometers away. Climate disasters, pandemics, cyber threat, and transnational crimes similarly recognize no national borders. What happened in one part of the world can quickly affect people both near and far. This reality leaves us with a simple conclusion. No country, regardless of its size, wealth, or power, can address these challenges alone. Solidarity is therefore more than an expression of goodwill. It is a practical necessity. It requires countries to work together, to respect agreed rules, to strengthen multilateral institutions, and above all, to preserve peace. However, peace is fragile. It can never be taken for granted. The growing conflicts that we witness across the world, including in our region, remind us how quickly decades of development can be destroyed and how difficult peace can be rebuilt once it has been lost. In this uncertain environment, I wish to echo an important observation made yesterday by somebody like John San. We must remain hopeful about peace, but we must also have the foresight to anticipate risk, prevent crisis, and prepare our institution and society for challenges before they arise. Cambodia understands this reality from our own painful history. Our country endured nearly 3 decades of war and conflict, including the genocidal Khmer Rouge regime that brought our country to year 0. Millions of lives were destroyed, and the development of our nation was set back for generations. This history profoundly shaped how we view peace today. For Cambodia, peace is not merely a choice. It is a necessity. It is a treasure. It is the foundation upon which all other forms of development depend. Without peace, there can be no sustainable economic growth, no meaningful investment, no quality education, no social progress, and no secure future for our people. Peace and prosperity must therefore be understood as mutually reinforcing. Peace creates the condition for development, while inclusive and shared prosperity strengthen the foundation of lasting peace. The Charter of the United Nations remains the cornerstone of the rule-based international order. Its fundamental principles are clear: sovereign equality of state, respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, the renunciation of the threat or use of force, and the peaceful settlement of disputes. These principles are not abstract legal concepts. They are practical safeguards for international peace and stability. They are especially important in ensuring that relations among states are governed by agreed rules rather than by differences in military, political, or economic power. International law provides the common framework within which large and small countries alike can protect their legitimate interests and coexist in peace and dignity. But international law can perform this role only when it is respected consistently. We cannot defend international law only when it serves our immediate interest and disregard it when it becomes inconvenient. The credibility of the rule-based international order depends precisely on our willingness to uphold its principle when disagreement became difficult. Southeast Asia has long sought to embed these principles within our own regional architecture. This year marked the 50th anniversary of the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia, or better known as the TAC. Over the past 5 decades, the TAC has played a vital role in promoting and safeguarding peace, stability, and cooperation in our region. Its continued relevance is reflected in the growing number of countries from beyond Southeast Asia that have chosen to accede to the treaty. This demonstrates the international community's confidence in the principles and values ASEAN has long upheld. At its core, the TAC commits its high contracting party to mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, non-interference, the renunciation of the threat or use of force, and the peaceful settlement of dispute. But the contribution of the TAC goes beyond its legal commitment. Over 5 decades, it has helped nurture a regional culture in which consultation, restraint, and dialogue are regarded as the first response to differences. This habit of engagement has enabled countries with different political systems, interests, and perspectives to continue working together and to manage disagreement without allowing them to undermine the broader peace and cooperation of our region. The experience of the TAC also reminds us of the importance of conflict prevention and preventive diplomacy. Preventing conflict requires regular communication and early consultation so that emerging concerns can be addressed openly and constructively before they escalate. It requires confidence-building measures that reduce misunderstanding prevent miscalculation, and provide reassurance that disagreements will be addressed peacefully. And when disputes do arise, states should make full use of peaceful means available to them under international law, especially existing agreements that bind concerned parties. Cambodia has sought to follow precisely this approach in addressing our dispute with Thailand. I wish to take this opportunity to once again express Cambodia's sincere appreciation to friends and partners for their attention and concern they have shown regarding the situation, and in particular for their continuous support for the peaceful settlement of dispute in accordance with international law. But allow me to be clear. The Cambodia-Thailand border issue is not only relevant to the two countries concerned. It also touches directly upon principles that lie at the heart of the UN Charter, the ASEAN Charter, and the TAC, which are respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, the renunciation of the threat of use of force, and the peaceful settlement of dispute. Despite the difficulties we have faced, Cambodia has consistently pursued peaceful and lawful means in addressing both our maritime and land border boundary issue, especially within the framework of existing treaties and agreement. With respect to the maritime boundary, following Thailand's unilateral termination of the Memorandum of Understanding 2001, or MOU 2001, which is the only bilateral framework that has existed for addressing the overlapping maritime claim between our two countries, Cambodia was somehow forced to initiate the compulsory conciliation under the 1982 United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. This was not an act of confrontation or escalation. It was a peaceful, lawful, and constructive step expressly provided for under international law. Now that both Cambodia and Thailand are participating in the compulsory conciliation process, we hope that it will proceed in good faith and with sincerity and contribute to a mutually acceptable solution firmly grounded in international law. The successful compulsory conciliation between Timor-Leste and Australia, the very first of its kind, is a positive and optimistic example. It demonstrates that even complex and long-standing maritime differences can be addressed constructively when states place their confidence and trust in international law and engage seriously in the process. The same commitment to peaceful means also guides Cambodia's approach to land boundary. Although the ceasefires continue to hold, the situation on the ground remains a matter of grave concern. Obstructions such as barbed wire or shipping container placed around occupied Cambodian villages continue to prevent more than 20,000 of Cambodian civilians from returning to their home without obstruction its safety and dignity as agreed by both sides in the joint statement of the Third Extraordinary Joint General Border Committee on the 7th December of last year. We are also gravely concerned by continuing activity by the Thai armed forces in the occupied area well within Cambodian territory, which are contrary to international law and inconsistent with the existing treaty and agreement between our two countries. Such activities risk further complicating the situation on the ground and undermining the peaceful processes that both sides have agreed to pursue. In this regard, Cambodia continues to call for the full, effective, and immediate implementation in good faith and in its entirety of the joint statement of the 27th December 2025. Of particular importance is the prompt resumption of the survey and demarcation work of the Cambodia-Thailand Joint Boundary Commission, or the JBC, in accordance with the existing agreement between the two countries. I wish to add that the resumption of the work of this mechanism will be of crucial importance to address the root cause of the conflict, which is the land border dispute, recognizing the sovereignty of respective countries and establishing a clear borderline once and for all. It is vital to underscore that Cambodia and Thailand has a recognized international boundary, clearly delimited more than a century ago in maps produced at a scale of 1 on 200,000 by the Commission of Delimitation of Boundary between Indochina and Siam, pursuant to the Convention of 1904 and the Treaty of 1907 between France and Siam. Furthermore, these treaties and maps were relied upon by the International Court of Justice in its judgment in 1962 and again in 2013 in the case of the Prairie Temple. The way forward must therefore remain firmly grounded in this legal instrument and in the mechanism agreed between the two countries. Cambodia's position in this regard is clear and principled. The national border cannot be changed or determined by force or through fait accompli. Cambodia does not and will never agree to that. It is equally important to underline that the land boundary and the maritime boundary are two separate matters governed by different legal framework. There is therefore no legal or practical justification for using one to halt the progress of the other. Both should proceed without delay through their respective agreed legal framework and mechanism and in accordance with international law. For the affected family, there is no abstract question of international law. They concern their homes, their livelihoods, their children's education, and their ability to return to normal life. The pressing question for them is when they will be able to recover what they have built and accumulate through years of hard work and sacrifice, how they can cope with the hardship of the present and what the future will hold for them, especially for their children. Our government has made tremendous effort to help affected families, building shelters, temporary homes, providing first necessity items. And we would like to thank friends around the region and the world for helping mitigate their hardship. I wish also to pay deep respect for our nation's solidarity, our brothers and sisters who work night and days to mitigate and help for the displaced person, those who were forcibly chased from their home. Our objective remains a just, peaceful, and lasting resolution. And I repeat, just, peaceful, and lasting resolution. One that will enable the people of Cambodia and Thailand to live side by side in peace, stability, and shared prosperity for this generation and for generations to come. And here, Parliament have a distinct and indispensable role in strengthening international law, preventing conflict, and translating peace into shared prosperity. As underlined by Samdech Techo Hun Sen yesterday, Parliament must actively step in their constitutional roles, acting as strategic thinkers, senior advisors who offer sound judgment, and visionaries who devise long-term crisis prevention plans that extend well beyond election cycles. In this connection, allow me to add some reflection on the importance of the role of Parliament. Parliament occupied an important place in upholding international law at the national level. International commitment acquire their full meaning when they are reflected in national laws, institutions, and policy. In this regard, Parliament constitutes an essential link between obligations undertaken internationally and their implementation at home, particularly through the ratification of treaties, the adoption of appropriate legislation, and parliamentary oversight. Parliamentary dialogue represents a valuable dimension of preventive diplomacy. Exchange among parliamentarians can contribute to a better understanding of respective positions, reduce misunderstanding, foster personal trust, and help maintain dialogue during periods of political tension. Parliamentary diplomacy is, of course, distinct from formal diplomacy between governments. Yet, the two can be complementary. From this perspective, interparliamentary organization and conferences, such as this one, have significance not only as forums for discussion, but also as spaces for confidence building, mutual understanding, and conflict prevention. The political environment surrounding a conflict is often as important as the diplomatic process itself. During periods of tension, rhetoric matters. Misinformation, inflammatory language, and extreme nationalism can deepen mistrust, harden public attitude, and narrow the political space available for peaceful compromise. Political leaders and parliamentarians have a particular influence in this environment. The manner in which differences are presented to the public can either encourage restraint and mutual understanding, or, on the contrary, contribute to hostility between peoples. This dimension has become even more important in the age of social media, where misinformation can spread rapidly and public emotion can be amplified within hours. Parliamentary leadership can therefore have an important bearing on whether public debate remains grounded in facts, international law, and respect for other nations and people. Taken together, these reflections point to a broader reality. This is not the responsibility of diplomats alone. It requires engagement across institutions and society, and parliamentarians occupy a distinctive position at this intersection between the state and the people. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, solidarity does not mean that countries must agree on every issue. Differences are inevitable among sovereign states. What matters is how we manage those differences. Solidarity means recognizing that our security and prosperity are increasingly interconnected, that disagreement must be addressed responsibly, and that no national interest is ultimately served when disputes are allowed to descend into confrontation and conflict. In an increasingly uncertain international environment, one must resist that the belief that power alone can provide lasting solutions. History teaches us otherwise. Force may alter circumstances on the ground, but it cannot by itself create legitimate and durable peace. Lasting peace, I repeat again, requires dialogue, justice, mutual respect, and adherence to international law. The international community must therefore reaffirm a simple but fundamental proposition. Sovereignty must be respected. Territorial integrity must be protected. The threat or use of force must be renounced. International boundary must be respected, and dispute must be resolved peacefully in accordance with international law. These commitments lie at the heart of the United Nations Charter. They are embodied in the ASEAN Charter and the TAC, and they remain indispensable to an international order in which all states, large and small, can coexist peacefully with confidence, security, and dignity. As we commemorate 50 years of the TAC, we should remember its enduring lesson. Peace requires constant commitment, restraint, mutual respect, and dialogue. These principles must not simply be repeated in declaration. They must be translated in practical conduct by government, by parliament, and by international institutions. Cambodia will continue to uphold these principles. Having experienced the devastating consequences of conflict, we know the value of peace. Having benefited from peace, we know the opportunity it creates. And having seen how fragile peace can be, we know that it must be protected every day. Let our solidarity strengthen peace. Let peace create the condition for shared prosperity, and let international law remain the common foundation upon which both are built. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign.